Now, sister, I say walk. I say walk. I say walk. First step you've taken in 7.5 years, but I say walk. Walked out of that wheelchair. Wheel that wheelchair right behind you. Bring that wheelchair right behind you. Walk, child. Good God Almighty, walk. Love God. Look at her shouting and dancing now. Look at her dancing now. Spirit of God walking. That was Jim Jones laying hands.
I had to cover my mouth and not laugh hearing that. The amount of bullshit that spewed out of that was just
right. A whole
phenomenal.
Bunch of bullshit. This is Jen.
This is Becky.
And this is Too Close to Home, Jonestown and the People's Temple, Part 2.
Part 2.
Let's go ahead, reiterate our sources. The Road to Jonestown by Jeff Gunn. Last podcast on the left, episodes 300 to 304, Rolling Stone Magazine, Wikipedia, the PBS, and Alternative Considerations of Jonestown and the People's Temple by San Diego U. And then there is the Jonestown Archives that's available online. So last time we talked about Jim Jones' weird beginnings, his religious zeal that led him to forming the People's Temple, and the road to becoming a genuine cult leader. But today, I wanted to talk about how Jim Jones made his church and how he started that journey that led to Jonestown in Guyana. So let's go back to the temple. In 1959, he used much of the style and methods of Father Divine, his idol, used for sermons, but with his flair of communism.
Nice.
Just a little touch. His speech captivated members with lulls and crescendos as Jones challenged individual members in front of the group. It also marked the beginning of the temple's underlying us versus them message. Jones would repeatedly cite the passage to paint Jesus as a communist while at the same time attacking much of the text of the Bible as he was truly an atheist. I mean, Jesus, he kind of is a communist. Like, everybody gets some water that turns into wine. Everybody gets some crackers. That's his body, whatever.
But I don't think he was just like killing off people that weren't,
Well,
like him.
The winners write the history books. What if he was and we just don't know?
You're right.
Jesus.
Amen, sister. Preach.
The temple would begin to tighten their control over congregates at this time as well. It would require that members spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays like that with the temple family rather than their blood relatives. The beginning of a process to wean members from outside contact and redirect their lives toward a total commitment to the temple and its goals, isolating people just like a good old-fashioned cult.
Only way to do it.
He touted religious communalism, in which members would donate their material possessions to the temple in exchange for the temple meeting all those members' needs. Okay, first of all, I don't want to say that I'm bougie, but I am way too bougie for that. Like, you're going to take my dead mice over my dead body.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to listeners donating their things to us for the better of the podcast.
Yes. It would make me podcast better. I'm just saying. If you have some gold bars, maybe a pearl necklace or two.
Your homes, cars. I'm not picky, guys.
I'll lead you to the promised land.
I would have some grade A microphones. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, like, think of how crisp our voices would be.
We could start paying Jimmy.
Oh my God.
And something other than insults.
But that's my favorite way to pay him.
We will still pay him those as well. Humble beginnings.
Right? He would guilt the congregation for not embodying socialism ideals if they thought as a materialistic individual. And the way he did that was to get members to snitch on each other if they saw someone doing these selfish acts, like buying something for themselves instead of giving it for the church. Like, how dare you buy that Snickers bar?
I hate a snitch.
Snitches get stitches.
Right.
He would publicly shame them in front of everyone. You could do that to me one time. Once.
That's it.
And I'd be gone. The temple had little luck converting most Midwesterners to communist ideals, even though they disguised it as religion. But I guess, Midwest American, they ain't about the commies. So they probably suss it out real quick.
Yeah.
I smell communism. Well, Jim Jones was a really shit person and was ultimately responsible for many deaths and the destruction of many families. He, at one time, did walk the walk, so to speak, and achieve social justice around him by using the church. They had their own nursing homes in the group in the 1960s, and they were actually above the standards at the time. Marceline, who was a nurse, ran a real tight ship. She had worked with elderly before, so they should make sure that they were clean, taken care of, and fed, no neglect, avoiding the bed sore situation. They were funded by the people staying there with their checks, and any profit that would have went above what their care would require, it went to other church programs. They also opened a soup kitchen at the same time, then expanded their social services to include rent assistance, job placement services, free canned goods, clothing, and coal for winter heating, which makes me feel like, okay, I know that people use coal back in the day, but like, what are you doing? Like buckets of coal? Like it's the Irish potato famine? I don't know why.
I have no idea.
Like,
I literally am, luckily, past that time that I don't know anything about
I've never had to come across a situation where I needed coal, except for when my kids being bad. You know what I'm saying?
I only use it on my charcoal grill.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not even sure if that's the same kind of coal. Is there different kinds of coal? I don't know. Jimmy, maybe time for a fun fact here.
Yeah, insert here. That's what she said.
Jimmy's Fun Facts. Charcoal is produced by using a method known as pyrolysis, where organic materials, such as wood, are decomposed at high temperatures with an absence of oxygen. Coal, on the other hand, is a naturally occurring fossil fuel that is made from highly compressed organic material over a very long period of time. In a nutshell, they are both lumps of combustible carbon material, but charcoal is man-made, whereas coal is not.
I love it when Jimmy educates me.
Me too. They would end up serving about 2,800 meals a month. He also had detox centers for alcoholics and drug addicts to help them go cold turkey and become sober. These people were very diehard for Jim as they felt they owed their life to him. He provided education and job opportunities never before provided, making the cult self-sufficient in its own way by staffing these social services with cult members. He eventually was appointed to the Indianapolis Human Rights Commission. What he would do is meet with local leaders and businesses and try to integrate Indianapolis. He would visit restaurants and ask them to integrate, and if they refused, he would peacefully protest with his members until they relented. And most always, they relented. And once they would give up and say, fine, we'll integrate, he would get everybody in the church to come visit this business in off hours, so it wouldn't affect, their regulars, and buy them, their lunches or whatever. It was usually restaurants, so that it would be thousands of dollars during an off-peak time. So it was like a thank you. Like, okay, you've integrated, let me help you back. Don't get too liking Jim too much, though. He's still a dick.
Right now, it's like all good things, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of liking him. I don't like this.
Right? That's where I was when I got to this point in the story. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Also in 1960, he visited Cuba due to his admiration of the Cuban Revolution. He unsuccessfully tried to persuade the Cubans to come back with him and join his congregation in Indiana. I'm just saying, if I live in Cuba, I would assume that it's probably a little tropical, even though you have a whole lot of danger and shit happening. The last thing I'd want to do is move to fucking Indiana.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody in Indiana.
No.
Okay? I feel the same way about some other states, okay?
Many places.
I just can't imagine leaving the tropics. Could you imagine going from like the tropics to the Indiana cornfields? Do they even eat corn in Cuba? I don't know.
There is always the children of the corn, so that's one.
That's true.
Good thing.
I guess that's a part of their culture. They probably all look really pale and depressed. With Malachi just rolling around. The temple's religious message transitioned during this period to one treading between atheism and the subtle notion that Jones was a Christ-like figure. He would speak only on communism in private and use religion as a hook to bring them into the fold. In 1961, Jones claimed he had a vision in which Indianapolis and Chicago were destroyed by a nuclear attack. It's Spoiler, they didn't. But he was actually really terrified of this possibility, and it probably wasn't helped by his extreme lack of sleep. He would stay up for days on end, and members of the People Temple were encouraged to reach out to him personally, day or night, if they needed help. They noted that no matter what time they called him, he would always sound awake. And like, you know, when you call somebody for an emergency at night, they're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
You'd be like, what's up, man?
I've called many doctors at night, and I'm like, did you even wake up during any of that phone call?
Right? He probably was already hella paranoid at this time, but it'll continue to worsen as time goes on. And in 1962, Esquire magazine article listed the 9 safest places to be in a nuclear war. Which I'm like, what a different time.
Yeah.
To see that as a headline.
Right.
With Belo Horizonte, Brazil, topping the list because of its location and atmospheric conditions. FYI, Esquire magazine was Jim Jones' favorite magazine. And I don't know if they should brag about that or not. I don't.
Just trying to figure out how the atmosphere has anything to do with the radiation from a nuclear event and it protecting you. What I learned about radiation in school didn't say shit about the climate affecting if it kills you or not.
I'm just saying you ain't gonna be worried about whether it's raining or
yeah. Humidity does not cut down on radiation poisoning.
No. With this notion, he set out with the mission to relocate the church to keep the congregation safe. So he traveled through Brazil from 1962 through early 1963. Landing in Rio de Janeiro, he thought he could gather the impoverished community under his power like before in Indiana, and he was sorely mistaken. Brazil and South America were stacked with missionaries sprouting multitudes of gospels. Not to mention, he did not speak the Portuguese language and was extremely broke. It's like being in an oversaturated pyramid scheme. He did gather some stories to make himself look badass to his congregation. He told a story that while in Brazil, he was given an indecent proposal by a wife of a diplomat. And he used this way to show his unwavering support to social justice. He told her that he would not sleep with her. And then he gave in with the stipulation that she had to donate $5,000 to a local orphanage. And then he also stressed the fact that he left her in ultimate satisfaction, a job well done in his opinion.
OMG.
He's like, not only did I get those kids, those orphans, money, I'm sure she came at least twice.
But I made her motherfucking toes curl.
I'd like to see you do that. So you believe in social justice? Not like me.
I did it for Jesus.
I achieve social justice through Jesus and my dick.
I just am like shocked anyone was like, good job.
No, hold on. Wait a second. I need to pat myself on the back. So, although he asked his congregation to send money to him in Rio de Janeiro, he never received a dime to begin a new church, nor support himself. So he's basically lost in the sea of missionaries preaching about Jesus to people who can't stand him. Only he left his junior pastor, Russell Weinberg, in charge, and things quickly went downhill. Weinberg was preaching directly from the Bible, but not in the way of Jones, in the same way that every other Pentecostal preacher does. So a normal church. No faith healing, no apocalyptic messages, no focus on the struggle of minorities, and just, good old-fashioned Bible thumping. This caused people to abandon the church, and with the church numbers steadily dropping, there was also no income, leading to the inability to send him money. He did receive steady updates from members notifying him of the trouble, but had to stay in Brazil so not to look like things were failing until JFK was assassinated. And that was finally his excuse to be like, oh no, America needs me. I need to get back. Once he returned, everything was in ashes. He learned that the desegregation was pretty much already in action at that point without his influence. So his power and reputation was no longer one that made his church stand out. Financial issues and a much smaller congregation forced Jones to sell the People's Temple Church and relocate to a smaller building nearby. A good portion left before he even came back in 1963. and some departed with Jones' assistant pastor, Russell Weinberg. Weinberg had strongly resisted Jones' efforts to move the congregation and warned members of the People's Temple that Jones was abandoning Christianity, which was not untrue. To raise money, Jones briefly returned to the revival circuit, traveling and holding healing campaigns. After dealing with the issues at People's Temple, and possibly in part to distract from them, he told his Indiana congregation that the world would be engulfed by nuclear war on July 15th, 1967, leading to a new socialist Eden on earth, and that the temple must move. So what did he do? He grabbed Esquire magazine again, read the next location on the list, and it was Redwood Valley, California, near Ukiah. About 140 of Jones' most loyal followers made the move to California, while the rest remained behind with Weinberg. In California, Jones was able to use his education degree from Butler University to secure a job as a history and government teacher at an adult education school in Ukiah. Could you imagine hearing about Jonestown and be like, what? He was my government teacher. Well, I guess it makes sense. I learned everything I know from Jim Jones and socialism. So Jones used his position to recruit for People's Temple, basically, teaching his students the benefits of Marxism and lecturing on religion. Jones planted loyal members of the People's Temple in the classes to help him with his recruitment.
Oh, Jesus.
His efforts were successful, and Jones recruited 50 new members of the People's Temple in the first few months. Do you think he maybe had pamphlets or something and be like, psst, you see Jim? You see Professor Jones up there? Let me tell you about his church. Hold on, let me get a pamphlet.
That is probably exactly how it went down.
He's basically Jesus, okay?
Basically.
Communist Jesus. In 1967, Jones' followers coaxed another 75 members of the Indianapolis congregation to move to California. He did this by giving a date for the apocalypse to rush them out of Indiana. They're like, oh shit, we're on a time clock. We get out of here. In 1968, the People's Temple, California location was admitted to the Disciples of Christ, which I'm like, they must be playing fast and loose with his qualifications. He began using the denominational connection to promote People's Temple as part of the 1.5 million member denomination. He played up famous members of the Disciples, including Lyndon Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover, and misrepresented the nature of his position in the denomination.
Shocking.
You know, Lyndon B. Johnson. Do you know what he was super famous for?
Being president?
Showing his dick.
Oh.
I wonder if that's where the slang term for Dick Johnson come from, Lyndon B. Johnson, Jimmy?
Interesting.
I wonder. But he would do these power moves where he'd get mad at somebody and he'd be like, all right, walk with me. And he would take a piss or a shit and make that person stay in the bathroom with him while he discussed matters. He would throw his dick out at any opportunity, and he had a crazy sex drive. So there you go. Things you didn't need to know about Lyndon Johnson, but now you do.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it's really you should really brag. Lyndon Johnson went to my church.
Weird flex.
Yeah, right. Weird flex, but okay. It was a weird flex.
Huh. I'm still not sure what to do with that. I'm just going to marinate here on it for a little while.
I'm going to need you to share that information with JJ later.
I
to see the confusion.
If my boss was like, we need to talk, and we go in the bathroom and I have to stand there while he's taking his shit and talk to him.
The whole time go, no, I can't. By 1969, Jones increased the membership of People's Temple in California to 300. This is in a town, however, of just 15,000 people, and they were mostly white. They wanted nothing to do with the People's Temple. They were pro-Vietnam and anti-desegregation, which sounds crazy for it to be California at the time. So he shifted from looking for poor ethnic groups to rich white people with guilt of having safe and well-off upbringings who wanted social justice. So let's say it's like if you have a really rich surgeon, and instead of his son going off to school and getting a degree and following in his father's first footsteps, he just joins the Peace Corps instead. He wants those kids, those that feel bad about it, the ones that are like fighting for civil rights in this time, which was like the 60s were a time of upheaval and, a time of great social justice. So
And they don't mind spending daddy's money.
Oh, absolutely. Those people have a lot of money. They would deeply screen potential recruits. So they would invite people to unsuspecting events like parties and then interview them without those people realizing they were actually being vetted. Like they were being love bombed. They were the center of the attention of the room and they were like, so how do you feel about socialism? How do you feel about Russia? How do you feel about Lenin? Have you ever heard about Marxism? It's just like if I had someone ask me this question, I'd be like, maybe this is not the party for me. Yeah. I feel like this is a Jeopardy type of thing. I'm not in that level.
No. Woo. I just came for the hors d'oeuvres and alcohol.
I just want to talk about the new Jeffrey Dahmer series. Come on now. This ain't my vibe. They would be able to determine if they were disillusioned with society and easily manipulated, or if they would be ones that would go against the grain. A lot were young, college-age people, and with it being the end of the 60s, this cult was perfectly disguised to be a paradise of love and peace. He would continue his control with accident cycles. These are prophecies given by Jim where he would try to save members with specific instructions. They would sometimes be things like, you were going to have a heart attack, but I saved you, and for that, you survived, thanks to me.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start trying to do that to people.
Like, I'm just going to let you know right now, you almost got diverticulitis. I saved you, though.
You almost got, but I got you.
Another member named Whitey, who...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is even better. He was a black sheep of the group. And always in trouble, had received a warning from Jim about an impending accident. It came into fruition after a particularly rough punishment session where, as they were headed home, he and his family drove off a cliff.
Oh.
Jim and other members ran to help, and one of Whitey's children actually died, with Jim being distraught trying to climb down to the vehicle and flailing like a mother in grief. This also served as a warning to other members that not only are they at risk, so are their children, so they need to heed Jim's every word.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a happy accident almost. Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, that was terrible. Not a happy accident.
No, I know what you mean.
But I was like, no, that sounds horrible.
No, for him, it was a happy accident.
For him, it was like a fluke of just luck that this happened.
Yeah.
So it put the proof in the pudding, you know?
Right.
Martin Luther King Jr. was executed in 1968, and Jim Jones gathers all his members in caravan to the service in San Francisco. This surprised the all-black congregation when buses and carloads of a mixed crowd, including white people, descended upon the memorial service. It went from being almost full to standing room only with the addition of the People's Temple. They all seemed genuinely upset and unified against racism and bigotry. They were also impressed they had Jim say a few words during the memorial. He abandoned his sermons.
He spoke at Martin Luther King's service?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, it was one in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
He abandoned his sermons of anti-government for a more traditional religious sermon, with members of the church shouting their amens. He invited them out to his church to join in fellowship and work together to rid the world of racism. This was partially done as a way to recruit more members for the church, though. It wasn't really necessarily a, let's have some unity here.
Was he really anti-racism, though?
Yes.
That's good.
In a way. As much as he could have been for the time. Like later on, we're going to talk about his excuse on why he would only sleep with white women versus black women. So, like, in some ways, I feel like he was true to his word. And then in some ways, I'm like, okay, was it though? So, I mean, it looks like it. He did put a lot of things into effect, like the soup kitchen and everything, and maintained it at top quality. But.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Continue.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was going to say stop, but let's keep going.
But Becky told me I could keep going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As time moves on, members would be gained at astonishing amounts. Jim would use what he called situational ethics to isolate people from their families. I'm going to start using that all the time.
Loving it.
One instance was a girl who left an abusive situation and she was staying with a family that belonged to the People's Temple. She would write her family, but no one would write back. So she started to become really depressed and gravitated towards Jim. And he would talk about things he should not have any knowledge of, making her believe that he was a mind reader. And of course, she decided to stay with the church. Later on, she found out the host had been stealing her letters and passing the information to Jim.
That's exactly what I figured was going on.
Exactly it. And I think she stayed. Things would progressively become weirder. Imagine it. With Jim claiming he was Jesus, Gandhi, Buddha, Lenin, and Marx in past lives and believed in reincarnation. His sermons were called meetings, and they would go on for hours. To keep attention, everyone either stood or sat on the floor, and no chairs were allowed.
I'm out right there.
Yeah.
This back ain't made for floor sitting.
Oh, no. We had to go to this karate thing for Camilla, and it was in a school gym, and I was like, oh, my God, we're going to have to sit on benches. When my back's in a C-curve the whole time.
Limited amount of time I can do this.
He would have the doors locked, and no one could leave to even use the restroom.
Oh, I'm out right there.
With the exception of Jim. Earlier on, to make it look like he could handle like the long hours without it, he had a bucket behind the pulpit where he'd piss mid-sermon. So he wouldn't have to leave.
Disgusting.
Yes.
You already had me at locked doors. I mean, do these people not know about fire safety?
Could you imagine, like, you hear Jesus and in the background they're just tinkling? They're not a sink in sight. Not a fountain. Not a little water feature.
Those people are devout. More so than I could ever be.
Devout, deranged. I mean, a D word of some sort.
I don't feel like they were deranged. I feel like they were manipulated.
There you go. That's better.
I feel bad for the cult members because I feel like they, were probably troubled people who were manipulated.
Later on, he would lay on a couch and preach. Like, like when you go into like
that's what I'm talking about. If I was going to preach.
Just laying back, feet kicked up.
Let me
expand upon this.
How about everybody sit down, listen to my thoughts, all right? And then lay down.
Looking at the ceiling, not even looking at the audience.
Laying on your side. The microphone.
One member told of a grown man passing out and pissing himself during one such meeting due to the length of time. He would also give bizarre orders. And let me ask you as a nurse if this was okay, if this worked. Warm water and vinegar every morning. So it's supposed to help them. No.
Like detoxify them, cleanse them. I guess it's the same as people that drink that apple cider vinegar.
I guess.
And those goji.
Oh, yeah, the goji berry things.
That's vinegar stuff, too.
So, like...
Not for me. It's not for me. Not for my life.
No. And I don't think he believed in him, but these were techniques to make them silently obedient. Saying, oh, well, he's doing this for my good. So they would do it even if he wasn't there.
I mean, that still works today. I mean, how many people still buy into these fad diets and everything?
Oh, girl.
So he was just the beginning of it.
Right.
Do this, cleanse your body, blah, blah, blah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Give me $100.
People still do it.
He would also do poison tests where he would give people food or drinks and tell them that after the consumption of that food or drink that they were poisoned. The first time he did it, after consuming the supposed poison, he announced that they would all die shortly. While some were calm and accepting, some lost their shit and were angry. Some were devastated and confused. I would be amongst the angry ones.
Me
I would
too.
have beat that ass before I kicked the bucket.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know.
Same.
He would judge everyone's reaction first and then would announce it was a test. This helped distinguish the most loyal of his followers. And this became a common practice long before Guyana.
I don't know if it necessarily shows loyalty because if you put me and JJ in a room and told us we were poisoned, JJ just be like, well, fuck it. What are we going to do? Me, I'd be like, oh, you going down with me, motherfucker. I got about 30 seconds for this kicks in. I'm about to choke you out.
It's too late for me to vomit now. So, of course, he was fucking obsessed with sex like many cult leaders.
And men.
He would talk about his virility and how he pleasured his wife many times a night. And I'm talking like he did this during sermons and meetings with people. He was also open with his children about his sex and his sex life.
That's always a sign of a sociopath when you tell your kids about banging their mom.
Yeah, like. However, this was actually not true. Marceline had a really bad back her whole life.
Does it hurt and she can't do it tonight?
Yeah. And when she was pregnant, it made her like bedridden. It was so bad. And so everything was just super uncomfortable.
Wait a minute, hold on. I can say mine's bad enough that I can't get out of the bed. I haven't done that yet, so I don't have to do any chores or anything.
JJ, turn it off or skip ahead at least 2 minutes. Yes. Go ahead. Say you got a bad back. You can't. It's making penetration is just difficult. It's really painful. Would you want to cause your wife pain? Listen, I've seen pictures of Jim Jones. I would be using that same excuse too. Like, you know what? Nah, I ain't gonna be able to do it tonight. I'm so sorry.
Remember, I got this bad
I got about this, and then I had your child, and it made it worse. He had originally used Marceline for her knowledge of civics and ability to navigate politics, but as time went on and he learned from her, he no longer needed her in that capacity. His reason for even having Marceline was almost non-existent. So he began courting Carolyn Layton. She was a Methodist minister's daughter and married to Larry Layton and was born in Sacramento, California. And she was a deeply devout woman. She met Larry through friends as he was also studying at the same college as her, and they were both conscientious objectors to the Vietnam War. She basically wore the pants in the family. Get it, girl. Same. Jim sent Patty Cartmel to speak to her. Now, Patty Cartmel's story is super sad. She had this adoration for Jim Jones, and she wanted to be one of his lovers, but he dismissed her because she was too fat.
Oh, wow.
And to add insult to injury, he put her in charge of scheduling his sexual liaisons between Jim and other women.
Oh, wow.
So not only will I not fuck you,
but you get to schedule all my fucks.
Yep. He pulled a committee together to talk about Marceline's inability to take care of his sexual needs. She volunteered, and he said, no, thank you. Like, if you can turn down my Jim Jones, that's fucking brutal. Fucking brutal.
Or blessing.
Oh, that's true, yeah. She spoke to Carolyn that Marceline was mentally and physically unfit as a wife, and Jim needed a release, and only she could do it. Okay, first of all, you have two hands.
Exactly.
Right for regular, left for strange, okay? Depending on what your dominant hand is.
Numb if you really want the full effect.
He would tell many members that fucking him was helping him and the cause. So basically, it was a civic duty.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just fuck women. He would fuck his male congregates as well.
I'm sorry. Come again?
Yeah, he would fuck the men in his congregation as well. He would just offer openly, I'll fuck you in the ass if you want me to. Like, there was literally an interview I was listening to. Like, the guy was... He was a gay man in the church, and Jim was like, I'll fuck you in the ass if you want me to. And he was like, I'm good, but thanks. And he's like, well, I'm here if you need me.
I'll squirt some of this.
Like, what?
Jesus spirit right in you for your good.
Also, like, the civic duty thing, it makes me think, like, when me and Jimmy were dating, my grandma asked me, does he leave his toothbrush at your house? As a way of saying, like, are you fucking him? And I was like, well, and she's like, well, he's a soldier and he is protecting our country. So you should take care of him. And my sister was sitting right next to me, and she had been fussed at by my grandma for years for living in sin with her boyfriend.
Well, he wasn't defending our great nation.
No, that's exactly what my sister's like, the fuck, grandma? What? She's like, he's in the army and we got to take care of him. And I guess emptying their balls is a way to do it.
So I'm slightly confused. Me personally, I don't give a fuck if people are gay or not, but I know that the highly religious believe that's a sin and you're going to hell and yada yada, so on and so forth. I don't personally believe that. But since they're a church, did he not think that?
It's actually a very ridiculous answer to that.
Okay.
He did not believe in homosexuality, and he would preach that all men were basically homosexual and women were lesbians, and only he was heterosexual.
But he was...
Yes.
Okay.
So he's just making shit up as he goes.
Okay.
He was actually bisexual, I believe.
Obviously. Not I believe, obviously.
Like
he was having sex with men and women.
Well, I mean, it could be a thing of power, being that power top and forcing your congregants, like, in a way, like, you're helping me,
Right,
so
right.
I believe it might have been, but at the same time, he would, like, there was a story of a man who wanted to be with somebody he loved, and Jim was like, we don't believe in homosexuality around here. No.
Oh, okay, okay. So it probably was more of a power thing.
Yeah. I mean, he probably enjoyed the shit out of it.
I'm sure he did.
So subconsciously he was.
Right.
Carolyn was so damn devout. She, of course, acquiesced and started entertaining his advances while writing her family speaking of his holiness and social justice work.
Of course.
Her husband was actually upset about it, though.
Shocking.
And they split. But eventually he came back around for the People's Temple and remarried and acted like he gave up his wife to Jim for the greater good. It also helped that this wife was better looking and younger than Carolyn. So he's like, oh, I got upgraded. and this woman's not nearly as aggressive. It's probably what Jimmy and JJ would say if they ever got divorced from us. They ain't ever getting divorced. They dying. We know. Just kidding.
In my arms.
You and me going to grave together. They kept all of this pretty secret from members. However, he was open with Marceline and his children on the subject. He sat the kids down and told them that Carolyn was his special friend.
Oh.
Marceline acted like she failed as a wife and basically conceded her position to Carolyn. In 1974, an affidavit by Marceline Jones requested that all her mothering responsibilities be taken on by Carolyn in the event of her death. In a letter...
Not in the event of my death. You want to fuck my husband, then you take care of his children, too. You clean this motherfucking house, too.
Mm-hmm. You cook dinner.
These dinners.
You do all this shit.
You take them to all their little meetings, all their little dance classes and all that. Go ahead, big dog. You want this life? It's all yours.
Have at it. She wrote a letter to Jim, Marceline did, just a few days before their 21st anniversary. Regardless of who else you might care for, I thank you for including me. I'm sorry for the times I made you feel unloved. In my frustration as I tried to measure up, but never quite doing it, I thought I struck back in unkind ways. I'm grateful for the chance to prove my love to you. Thank you for your kindness and understanding. I don't know about tomorrow, but today I give thanks for each moment I share with you. Abused.
Oh, 100%.
That is abuse. She was taken advantage of. Like, he is fucking you over and you're thanking him for it.
Mm-hmm. Very of the time, too, though.
Mm-hmm. I just I hurt when I hear some of these stories of these women that were affected by him. Like,
yeah, because that shit wouldn't go down in my house.
That's a deep spell right there. So let's talk about amphetamines. Oh, look, that's like a big switch. Segue. Jones began using a lot of illicit drugs after moving to California, which, I mean, it's California. How you gonna be California dreaming if you ain't vibing?
You can't be California dreaming if you ain't vibing.
This further heightened his paranoia.
Shocking.
Yeah, right? He was already super paranoid beforehand, believing that the government and others were out to get him and the rest of the People's Temple. He was also not sleeping at all. And then
because he's taking all that speed.
Right? A ton of speed. And then you put in the fact that he micromanages, never delegates any of the things. So, like, that meant with the nursing homes, with the soup kitchens, with all the stores and restaurants that People's Temple had, all the property, the running of the people, the discipline, the sermons. He had his hand in every little bit of it. And you only have so many hours a day. Well, you know what? You have 24 if you're on amphetamines.
You do.
You'd be the Energizer buddy. You might get some conspiracy theories going, but you're getting shit done.
Handling business.
Using amphetamines and speed to keep going, and when he actually did sleep, he took Quaaludes. He ended up having, like, extremely bloodshot eyes and would constantly tear up. And that's where his infamous glasses came into play, a way to hide his drug addiction. So that's, I mean, there's not many
Is that
pictures.
why you wear glasses, Jennifer?
This is exactly why I wear, girl. It's all this meth I'm on.
I know it.
I saw a TikTok the other day. It was like, what are white people good at cooking? Meth. He said that his excuse for wearing them all the time, including at night and in church, would be that he was so godlike that no mortal man could handle his stare. He was on speed, so I can believe he would think that.
Yes, I can too.
He probably also heard colors.
Wish I could hear colors.
I know. With all the money flowing in, he bought a slew of used, decommissioned 1950s Greyhound buses to take people on road trips because he was already on the revival circuit. Well, you can't be going on the circuit and not have an audience, so you need to bring that shit with you.
I'm just saying, I don't have any friends that buy used buses and take me on road trips. Jennifer.
Well, let me tell you about these glamorous buses. They're 50 people capacity, and they would fill it with 70 plus people.
Okay, that's too much. I need my leg room. I need it right now. I need it all the time. I don't need a lot. I'm only 5 foot tall, but
I'm going to need some kicking space. You know what I'm saying?
I need it.
With that many people, they would actually drive straight through with two drivers, one who would drive and the other one who would sleep in the luggage compartment on a mattress so that they could just switch out and keep going and not have to stop and stay at hotels.
I'm surprised nobody died of carbon monoxide in the luggage pit.
For
sleeping.
real. Also, during these trips, the cancer bit got a little bit more involved. Instead of bringing the person to the bathroom as before, he would send a person dressed as a nurse to a member and would slip the chicken in their mouth for them to spit out once Jim got to hollering, and they called this passing a growth. First of all, they let that chicken rot for days.
And then put it in their mouth.
If you want to get throat chopped, even bring it near me. I am a smell aversion person. Smells bother me a lot. I am not, if it's I can't. That makes me want to gag right now. It makes me so mad for these people.
I wish you all could see Jennifer and really, really get the sense of emotion that she's giving out.
It's two things that will make me irrationally angry. Bad smells and lack of air conditioning.
Lack of air conditioning, I'm right there with you. Hunger's the other one for me.
That's it,
I will get irrationally angry.
I'm going to need to eat before I hurt your feelings.
Nothing. When I'm too hungry, I'm like, why are you breathing so loud? Why?
Don't even look at me. I can feel your eyeballs.
Yes, exactly. And then when I start eating, I'm like, I'm so sorry. What I said about you staring at me was sweet.
I feel better now. So he also got into merch, and he would sell photos of himself so he could protect the person no matter where they were.
You know what, guys? We're going to start selling photos of us, and it is also to protect you.
They're $300 a pop, and you will not have anything happen to you. If there is a growth, you're going to pass that chicken.
I recommend you hang it above your bed.
Oh my God, now we have to do it.
We do.
Both of us. Almost Tammy Faye Baker style, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Makeup and all.
So many layers of mascara.
Yes.
Don't even think about crying. Don't even have allergies. Be black rivers down both sides.
Sad thing is I could never put fake eyelashes on, so.
Oh, they're just so itchy.
I have eye thing, you know? I don't like things going near my eyes, so putting fake things on it, no.
I don't blame you.
No.
They're not comfortable. I don't know how people do them every day.
Glue on my eyelid? Are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
That's torture. Just go ahead.
Torture.
Waterboard me while you're at it.
You heard it here. One child stated that they laid a picture on a dead bird and it came back to life.
You know what? That's it. I'm printing out some pictures of you and I tonight at Camilla's birthday, and we're doing it.
Yes.
Can we get all the little innocent virgin children around and do like a seance circle?
Oh my God, we're going to put white pillowcases on them. Look, they're angels. Little, what is it called? Aluminum foil halos. Because it's not crazy if we don't got no aluminum foils, okay?
It's not complete. You can't get the energy.
Got to get that tin foil.
You can't get the energies.
Got to keep it in a loop. They were $5 a picture. and they would see up to 600 a service being sold. That was $3,000 tax-free in the 60s.
Fuck.
They would also recruit new members, and these members would come to their compound not knowing it was a socialist structure till they arrived. He would preach whatever that person wanted to hear to get him in, often in the guise of religion, and then once caught, he would change his gears to his socialist agenda. So we're going to talk about bourgeois. Okay. So these camps that the People's Temple lived in were pretty shitty conditions, but not unlivable. However, if anyone complained, he would just say, bourgeois, for being too uppity to live the socialist life.
Stop.
Like, you want air conditioning? Bourgeois. You expect toilet paper? Bourgeois.
So, a variation of bougie. You're being bougie.
It's bougie. Yeah. He coined the term. There you go.
He did.
He also used this as a reason why he only had his sex with white women. White women needed to be snapped out of their bourgeois attitudes, and black folks don't have that. Hence why he only sleeps with white women. Which is like, all right, now.
First of all.
I smell a racist. Also, there are reports that he was actually very well hung. And that's not just his reports. But then again, these people would put raw chicken in their mouths and say that was growth. So, I mean, their 7 inches might actually be 3. Who knows?
Who knows? Exactly. Maybe when he was giving them all 3, he's like, tell me how well hung I am. Yeah, but Daddy, I can't take it all.
I didn't even know you were in there.
I mean, we've all lied to a man before.
Oh, absolutely. Look, he's the little dick that good. He'd also create fights where members who were acting bourgeois would have to fight an opponent, often bigger than them, and keep going till they eventually lost. Sometimes they would be naked, and sometimes it would be mismatched, like a grandma and a kid.
Stop. Did they also throw Jell-O in there sometimes?
It's like a fight club for cults.
Gladiator games.
All right, Grandma, let's fucking go. You ready to tussle? And then watch Grandma come out with a knife like,
Grandma, you know what? Kid might have the youth and the fastness, but a grandma got wisdom.
She do.
She's like, you gonna wear
Think
yourself
smarter,
out, young
not
buck.
harder, baby.
Yep.
She didn't make it that far without a couple tricks up her sleeve.
Exactly.
The trick probably being a knife.
Exactly. A shank.
Kick-oo! Most of the original...
Gotcha, little motherfucker.
Talk back to me again. Talk back to me again. You gonna learn today. Like gospel music, all in the background. It's very weird.
I'm sorry. Why were they fighting again?
He would just pit them against each other.
Okay, just in the name of Jesus.
Be like, you know what? You misbehave. You're bourgeois. Now you need to fight your grandma. You know what? That baby's acting bourgeois. Somebody punch it. Bourgeois. I'm gonna start telling Jimmy that anytime he starts complaining. Bourgeois.
I'm gonna start doing that too. I'm gonna be like, that's it.
Don't tell them though beforehand while you're doing it.
And Emma.
Let's go.
Let's get it on. Fight.
Don't be so bourgeois. And then Emma's gonna win. We all 100%.
Know. 100%.
She's your daughter. She'd be sticking her fingers in his eyes. Those little baby fingers are like little pencils. You know what I mean? It's sharp as shit.
Pulling out her little baby shiv.
Daddy, fuck with me again.
It's exactly it. I taught her last night. I'm sorry, side note. I taught her last night. If anybody ever messes with you, baby, you tell them. You think you're crazy? You ain't met my mom yet. She's a different kind of crazy.
I'm going to ask her tonight, like, hey, how crazy is your mama?
She went out and told JJ that. And she said, is it true? And he said, oh, it's true.
If anyone knows, that would be JJ.
It would be.
So most of the original members were very disenfranchised and poor, so just having somewhere to sleep and food to eat was enough for them. However, as time moved on and he started gaining more wealthy followers, it became harder as these people had better circumstances at home than in the cult, and they were very well educated. They would argue with him on points, and he would lose his shit and be like, hey, he'd pull them to the side afterward and be like, hey, these people ain't as smart as you, okay? I'm dumbing it down for them, and I'm going to need you to not be a little bitch and argue with me in public. Quote, unquote. Not really, but And pretty much said, you can talk to me about all the things, but just don't do it in front of people putting me on blast, okay? We need a smart person like you. It's just, we got to do it for these dummies over here. And it was just to quell those people who were like possibly be troublemakers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're sitting there talking like these people are idiots, but they're not.
Right.
He was very adept at working people and making them feel special. He was good at hearing a person's name once and having the ability to recall that as if he had been old friends for years. He would be able to recall their family's names, what problems they had, just generally feel like they were the most important person in the world to Jim in that moment. He also used this as a method to control with problem members, like I said, and would stroke their ego to use that questioning into utter allegiance, like in the case of Tim Stone. Tim was an attorney for the ADA of Mendocino, California, as well as Jim's right-hand man. He had a bright future, and people around him were confused as to why he joined the People's Temple. Knowing that the organization was getting huge, Jim knew he needed an attorney, and what better than taking a cult member and making him as confident and responsible for the success of things just as much as Jim. Tim came along with his wife, Grace. The closeness between Tim and Jim strained their marriage, and before long, she was complaining to others, Tim and Jim. Well, Tim and Jim again. Complaining to other members of the congregation. She was unaware, though, that the People's Temple had a snitch system where they would report on each other and it would be logged on cards about members.
Oh.
Like a Dewey Decimal System of snitching. It wasn't super uniform, but enough to maintain control over information. Knowing this, hearing that she was dissatisfied, Jim swooped on in, and within just a little bit of time, she was pregnant. John Victor Stone was born January 25th, 1972, and Jim was over the moon. However, abortions were a normal thing in the People's Temple as he hated condoms. His birth was unique as women in the group were forced to undergo abortions quite often. To get around the abortion quandary, he stated that the only point of sex was for his release and that babies were an unnecessary byproduct, so no need to go all the way to birth since it was against socialist beliefs to add more people to the world.
Okay, then.
And
talk about pro-choice.
Right. Being Jim's son, people detected divinity in him, and they would call him John the Godchild. And if you don't call your John that.
I know.
Because he is.
He is.
He is divine.
I am upset that I've wasted 17 years with his name being John, and it has not been followed with
John the Godchild.
Yeah. He's going to be upset too.
I know. Telling him today. Okay. Yes. From now on, you're no longer John.
No.
You have to abbreviate it. I'm John GC, Godchild. It's like a real, with the abortion thing, it's almost like you say your body, your choice. But we had never think about it in the choice of being able to have an abortion, but the fact that these women were forced into it. So it's just as bad, I think here's my social corner. It's my body, my choice. I'll do whatever the fuck I want it, whether I want one, whether I don't. Don't fuck with me. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And I'm in the corner with you. I feel 100%. But I'm adamantly against you can't have one or you have to have one. Those are just the extreme opposites, and it's both are horrendous.
Oh, yeah. First of all, having babies suck. But it's even worse if you've been wanting one and then you get told that you're just, all right, it's time. It's like if someone had went through in vitro this time, you're like, I'm going to need you to scoop that baby out.
Yeah.
So while Tim was on the birth certificate of John the Child of God, Jim and the rest of the People's Temple acknowledged the actual paternity of John. And he made Tim write a letter to attest to it, almost in humiliation.
Not almost, 100% in humiliation.
So here's that letter. I, Timothy Oliver Stone, hereby acknowledge that in April 1971, I entreated my beloved pastor, James W. Jones, to sire a child by my wife, Grace Lucy Gregg Stone, who had previously at my existence reluctantly but graciously consented thereto. James W. Jones agreed to do so reluctantly after I explained that I very much wished to raise a child but was unable after extensive attempts to sire one myself. My reason for requesting James W. Jones to do this is that I wanted my child to be fathered, if not by me, by the most compassionate, honest, and courageous human being the world contains. The child, John Victor Stone, was born January 25th, 1972. I am privileged beyond words to have the responsibility for caring for him, and I undertake this task humbly with a steadfast hope that said child will become a devoted follower of Jesus Christ and be instrumental in bringing God's kingdom here on earth, as has been his wonderful natural father. This was done to keep him in place, as Tim's power in the cult was actually getting a little too big for his britches, apparently, according to Jim. It kept him under the thumb of Jim. Pretty much cuckolding you. Because he was probably the most dangerous person to Jim. He knew all the dirty, dark secrets. He knew about the drugs. All these things that were hidden from the rest of the cult. Tim knew. So he was dangerous. And how do you tame something dangerous? You put it in a cage. And his cage was his wife getting knocked up by Jim Jones and having to acknowledge that paternity. And not only did they fuck with Jim on this, Marceline was forced to witness this affidavit. What a fucking slap to the face.
Yeah.
And she decided that this was the final straw and that she told Jim she and the children were leaving. And he had her and the kids brought in front of the entire church and bullied her into staying. And she stood strong until he said, "If you leave, I will kill you." So she just stayed in misery.
See, you can't tell him you're leaving. You just got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it. Middle of the night, dark.
Mm-hmm. He's off on one of his tent revivals.
Mm-hmm. Putting chicken in people's mouths. Shit.
Exactly.
There was a huge double standard between Jones and his family versus the congregants under him. He would take his family on big trips on the church's dime under the guise of secret missions. While this sounds like his kids enjoyed their lives, they too were under his thumb of influence and subjected to mental abuse. He kept his drugs readily available around his home, which is already bad. But then you factor in his son, Stephen, attempted suicide with those pills at the age of 12.
Wow.
And it happened 3 times. He still left the drugs out.
Of course he did. He's not going to change his ways for anyone.
Mm-mm.
He's the Almighty.
Exactly. He also started to refer to himself as their socialist God, replacing Jesus Christ in the traditionally Christian model of preaching. I think he truly believed this due to his extreme narcissism and drug use. Having people follow him almost unquestionably was even worse on his already inflated sense of self. His sermons started using cuss words to appear more with the times. He once led the congregation in a chant of the word fuck.
I'm
fuck,
here for it.
Fuck, 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 fuck. Like,
I'm here for it.
Also during this time, Father Divine passes, September 10th, 1965. He died of natural causes at his Woodmont estate, and Jim saw a huge opportunity to seize the power of Divine's congregation. Now, we all know from the previous episode that Father Divine said that he was immortal and that his wife, Penaniah, was reincarnated into a young white Canadian woman's body.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, so is his spirit going to go into Jim Jones?
Exactly. Jim claimed to be the reincarnation of Father Divine, as Mother Divine had been reincarnated into body of Edna. He gathered a bunch of his disciples and buses and went on over to Father Divine's church, making sure to have room to take back all the disciples that would join the People's Temple. Also, could you imagine, like, what? Well, you guys, there's only 40 of us on this time. Thank God. Just the little things in life, you know?
It is.
It was actually ill-fated due to his socialist beliefs. So instead of preaching on religion, he went hard on socialism and left God completely out of it. He also threatened them with a fiery time in hell should they not join him. And Mother Divine was like, you get the fuck on out of here. So that had to be a real awkward ride back to California from Philadelphia. he told the people it was she tried to sleep with him and he refused. The same trope as he did in Brazil, only no kids got charity this time and he didn't leave anybody satisfied. While a couple of people did join the People's Temple, Mother Divine took over the movement and control for the members left from Divine's congregation. And he went back to California with his tail between his legs.
Sad face.
And that's where we're going to leave off until episode 3. We're going to talk about Jim's political career, escalating abuse, and how Jonestown was literally carved out of the earth.
Fun.
So, some cult safety. Just because we are been talking about cults, and in the event that you find yourself in a cult after hearing some of these stories, here are some resources. The Freedom of Mind Resource Center, the Cult Education Institute, and Encourage Survivors of Cult and Abuse, Hope Valley Counseling for our UK listeners, International Cultic Studies Association, and its partner, Spiritual Abuse Resources. And if you need help, we're here for you. So just reach out. How can you make this a full-time job for us? You can subscribe and rate on all our platforms, anywhere that you listen, anywhere that you get your podcast. Follow us on all our socials. DM us if you have your own Too Close to Home stories, and check out our merch if you want to rep us. Spread the sickness.
Give us a like. Drop in our DMs.
Yeah. Tell us a story or two.
Leave us a review.
Oh, man. It would be so nice. I mean, if you think it's going to be a shitty review, please don't. But like, if it's going to be positive, throw it out there.
Yeah, we would appreciate it.
I will not put any rotten chicken in your mouth to achieve such a thing.
Promise I won't.
No mind control techniques, no Jim Jonings.
But I will take any donations that you want to give.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'll hand them on over. Well, until next time.
Stay safe.
Keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home and let Jim Jones come home and lay the D down on you.
That glorious 3-inch D.
Don't do it.
Don't even think about it.
I promise
There's
kids,
only one John Godchild.
It's mine.
You damn right. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.